She's someone that I plan on getting married again.
You do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And having kids?
absolutely.
That she is embracing or at least exposing herself and opening herself up to Scientology. At this stage in your life, could you be with someone who doesn't have an interest?
They were Hollywood's golden couple and the picture of perfection. However, in 2001, their fairy tale ended overnight, and no one saw it coming. Then the rumors about power, faith, and control began, but Tom's silence only deepened the mystery. What really happened behind closed doors, and why did he walk away so suddenly?
Listen, here's the thing, Peter.
Yeah.
You're stepping over a line now. You're stepping over a line. You know you are.
I suppose they're questions though,
Peter.
that people want to know.
Peter, you want to know.
Stay till the end, because this isn't just a story about love lost, it's about what really tore Hollywood's brightest couple apart. In this video, we'll uncover what led to the shocking end of Tom and Nicole's seemingly perfect marriage. From secret pressures to unspoken beliefs, and a silence that spoke louder than any confession. What did Tom really hide, and why? The reality of it all is darker than anyone imagined. The spark that changed everything. When Tom Cruise met Nicole Kidman on the set of Days of Thunder in 1989, neither of them could have foreseen how quickly their lives were about to change. Tom was already one of Hollywood's biggest stars, fresh off his first divorce and at the peak of his fame. Kidman, on the other hand, was a young Australian actress still carving her path into the American spotlight. Their story began amid the chaos of a movie set with roaring engines, flashing cameras, and the pulse of Hollywood energy. After the cameras stopped rolling, their love story took off like a race car on full throttle, and within a year, the two were inseparable. In December 1990, on Christmas Eve, they made it official with a quiet wedding in Telluride, Colorado. It was intimate and romantic, exactly how they wanted it. There were no flashing paparazzi lights or press announcements. It was just two people in love starting their new chapter together. By the mid-1990s, Tom and Nicole weren't just a couple. They were the couple. Hollywood adored them, and the tabloids tracked their every move. Around this same time, Tom was dominating box offices with Jerry Maguire and Mission Impossible, while Nicole captivated audiences when she played the role of Dr. Chase Meridian in Batman Forever, and also got a Golden Globe Award for her dark comedic performance in To Die For. Together, they embodied success. They were two stunning stars, deeply in love and conquering the world side by side. Their red carpet appearances became events in themselves. Photographers couldn't get enough, and fans saw their marriage as nothing short of a modern fairy tale. However, behind the camera flashes and public appearances, there was also a quiet bond between them. They weren't just acting like a perfect couple for the world, they genuinely seemed to find comfort in each other. They worked together again in Far and Away, in 1992, playing Irish immigrants chasing the American dream. Watching them on screen, it was hard to tell where the characters ended and real life began because their chemistry was that natural. The chemistry was effortless, and their love was undeniable. But as their bond deepened, so did the world's fascination. What began as a private romance was about to become a public obsession. In 1992, Tom and Nicole began building their family, adopting their daughter first Isabella that same year, and their son Connor in 1995. They often talked about how much they valued privacy, especially for their children. They wanted a normal, steady family life amid the chaos of Hollywood, yet the higher they rose, the more the spotlight burned. Their marriage quickly became a target for rumors. Every public appearance was analyzed, and every small gesture was picked apart. The tabloids were relentless, constantly publishing stories about supposed affairs or tension between them. However, Tom and Nicole fought back, even suing newspapers that spread false claims. In public, They stood united, smiling, holding hands, and showing strength. But behind the scenes, the pressure must have been overwhelming. Tom once admitted that every little step Nicole took was much bigger news because she's with him. It was an acknowledgement of the intense scrutiny surrounding their relationship and how hard it was to live under that kind of spotlight. For Nicole, it meant losing a part of herself to the image the world had created of Tom and Nicole. And for Tom, it meant constantly trying to protect what they had built, while the public kept trying to pull it apart. Their personal and professional lives continued to intertwine, and in 1999, they starred together in Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, a haunting exploration of marriage, desire, and trust. The film became one of the most talked about of the decade, not only for Kubrick's enigmatic storytelling, but also because of the real-life couple at its center. It left audiences wondering if it was art imitating life, or were they simply playing their roles. On screen, they portrayed a couple confronting secrets and temptation, but off-screen, the rumors grew louder. People began speculating that the movie took a toll on them emotionally. That it forced them to face questions they weren't ready to answer. Whether that was true or not, no one really knew, but what was certain is that something shifted after Eyes Wide Shut. Through the years, their love story had been one of Hollywood's brightest, because they seemed so perfectly matched. Tom, with his intensity, was balanced out by Nicole's calm grace. They laughed together in interviews, spoke highly of each other, and appeared deeply connected. But sometimes, even the strongest connections start to fray under the weight of fame. It's hard to say exactly when the cracks began to show, but by the end of the 90s, their picture-perfect world was quietly changing. Looking back, their relationship had all the elements of a classic Hollywood romance. It had passion, success, devotion, and mystery. From that first meeting on the set of Days of Thunder to their powerful presence on the red carpet, they gave the world a love story that seemed too good to be true. And that is what makes their story unforgettable. It wasn't just about movie stars in love. It was about two human beings navigating something that felt real in a world that rarely is. For a while, they managed to make the impossible look easy. The love was real, and the bond undeniable. But as time would soon show, not even the brightest lights in Hollywood can burn forever. For years, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman looked perfect. They were the Hollywood dream, yet behind the glamour, faith, and fame, unseen pressures began to pull them apart, setting the stage for heartbreak. Faith, fame, and the fracture no one saw coming. Behind the glamour and red carpet smiles, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's marriage carried tensions that only a few noticed. While their love story had all the makings of a Hollywood dream, as time went on, rumors suggested something deeper was at play, something beyond fame or fortune. It was about faith, influence, and control. And soon, the quiet murmurs surrounding Tom's connection to the Church of Scientology began to grow louder. From early on, Tom's devotion to Scientology wasn't a secret, as he had been one of its most famous members since the 1980s. He has, on many occasions, publicly credited the church for helping him overcome personal struggles and giving him focus. For many, that was simply part of his story. But as his relationship with Nicole evolved, industry insiders began to wonder how the church fit into their marriage. Was it merely background noise or a powerful force quietly shaping their lives? By the late 1990s, talk of Scientology's influence had become a constant undercurrent whenever Tom and Nicole's names were mentioned. Some insiders claimed the church saw Nicole as a potential distraction from Tom's deep commitment to his faith, while others suggested she never fully embraced it, despite her efforts to be supportive. Nicole herself rarely spoke about the subject publicly, but those close to her hinted that she preferred a more private and grounded spirituality. one that didn't always align with the church's demanding nature. In public, Tom firmly denied that Scientology caused any strain in their marriage. A defining moment came during his 2002 interview with Barbara Walters, where he clearly stated that his faith had nothing to do with their split. Still, the speculation refused to fade as tabloids seized on the story, portraying the church as a shadowy third presence in their relationship, a wedge that slowly drove them apart. They were Hollywood's golden couple, the picture of perfection, love, and success. So when Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's marriage suddenly fell apart, the world was stunned. If Scientology wasn't to blame, what really happened? Let's get into it. People often look for a single, simple reason when a marriage ends, especially when it is one that lives under the glare of public attention. However, when Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman split in 2001, there was no neat explanation. Instead, the world received a short, carefully worded statement claiming their careers had kept them apart and that an amicable separation was best. While that explanation held some truth, as both were global movie stars with demanding schedules, constant travel, and unrelenting focus, it left little room for an ordinary sense of togetherness. Over time, that distance took its toll. Working on opposite sides of the world, enduring months-long film shoots, and navigating an industry where stepping back could mean losing momentum, all of it placed immense strain on a relationship that needed time and stillness to endure. Beyond their demanding schedules, fame itself shaped the rhythm of their lives. As a couple, Tom and Nicole became a brand, and with that came expectations. Fans, studios, and the media had a vested interest in seeing them as Hollywood's perfect pair, and that image was its own kind of burden. When your marriage exists partly as a public performance, it becomes harder to change, to adapt, or to admit when something isn't working. The very success that made them icons also made privacy rare and compromise difficult. Small disagreements were amplified when every gesture was photographed, every word dissected. Even quiet moments meant to heal could turn into headlines. It's hard to grow together when the world insists on keeping you exactly as it wants to remember you. Also, over the years, Nicole's voice and her sense of self began to evolve. She spoke about feeling less present during the early stages of their marriage, often attending events where she felt more like a supporter than an equal. This shrinking inside a relationship is something many people experience, and when one partner gradually gives up more of their identity for the sake of harmony, resentment can begin to build. After years of playing the quieter role in public, it may have become harder for her to feel truly seen or heard. Personal growth and a renewed sense of purpose often lead people to re-examine whether a relationship still aligns with the life they're trying to build. It's a change that rarely makes headlines, but it's often the most honest reason a marriage ends. Beyond faith and fame, personal challenges also tested their bond. In 1990, during the early days of their marriage, Nicole suffered a devastating ectopic pregnancy, an experience she later described as nearly fatal and heartbreaking. The loss left both of them shattered, yet they found comfort in each other and later in adoption. Their decision to adopt Isabella and Connor was, by all accounts, an act of love and hope for the family they'd always dreamed of. Still, the pain they endured under the gaze of the world has a way of leaving scars that never fully fade. Whatever the reason, faith, distance, or disconnection, something had finally broken between them, and soon the world would find out. Because when the divorce came, it came without warning the day Hollywood stopped breathing. On February 5th, 2001, Hollywood woke up to a headline no one saw coming. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, the golden couple, the picture-perfect pair everyone thought would last forever, had announced their separation. The joint statement they released was polished, professional, and vague. In it, their careers was stated as the official reason for their separation, a diplomatic way of saying life had gotten in the way. But even as the words made headlines, fans and insiders couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The announcement hit like an earthquake. coming just weeks after the couple had celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary. Nicole had recently spoken warmly about their marriage, saying things finally felt stable again after years of balancing work and family life. She later revealed that she had even become pregnant around that time, something she and Tom had long hoped for. And then, without warning, he told her it was over. Unfortunately, she miscarried. According to court documents later made public, Nicole was completely blindsided. She pleaded with him to try counseling, to fix whatever had gone wrong, but Tom's mind was made up, and just like that, 11 years of love, family, and partnership came to an abrupt end. The public didn't know it at first, but behind that calm statement was heartbreak. Nicole would later admit that the divorce came as a shock to her system, as she believed they were truly happy. To her, the suddenness didn't make sense, because they had shared a life, 2 children, and what seemed to be an unshakable bond. To have it all collapse in one conversation was a blow only few could imagine, let alone endure under the glare of global attention. After the divorce was finalized, Nicole chose a different path. Instead of retreating, she faced the public with grace. She didn't lash out or fuel the gossip. She simply showed up poised, confident, and even a touch witty. When she appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman in August 2001 to promote The Others, everyone knew the topic would come up. Letterman, who was never one to avoid sensitive questions, leaned forward and asked, "I heard you're getting divorced. How's that going?" The audience fell silent. Nicole smiled, paused for a moment, and then delivered one of the most memorable one-liners in talk show history. "Well, I can wear heels now." The crowd erupted, and Letterman burst into laughter, clapping his hands. "Wow, that's gonna cost you," he joked. It was a cheeky dig, a tiny jab at Tom's 5'7" frame compared to Nicole, who was nearly 5'11". In that moment, Nicole transformed pain into power, and the line went viral before going viral was even a thing. It became a symbol of her resilience, proof that she could move forward with grace and humor, even after being blindsided by one of the most shocking splits in Hollywood history. The public couldn't get enough of her. Magazines praised her poise. Fans flooded online forums to defend her. People saw a woman who could have fallen apart but instead chose dignity. Even on Oprah, she smiled through questions about the divorce, admitting she was still healing but focusing on her work and her kids. She never cried on camera or spoke ill of Tom. Her strength was in what she didn't say. Meanwhile, Tom largely stayed out of the spotlight, and his silence, likely intended to protect his privacy, only fueled further speculation. To some, he seemed cold or detached, while to others, he was simply guarding what remained of his personal life. Still, the contrast between them was striking. Nicole's warmth and vulnerability stood in sharp relief against Tom's quiet reserve, and in Hollywood, perception is everything. Before long, the narrative had taken shape. Nicole became the heartbroken yet graceful ex-wife, while Tom was cast as the distant superstar. As the weeks went on, the tabloids filled in their own blanks. Was it career tension, religious differences, jealousy? Everyone had a theory. Every look, every quote, every public appearance was dissected, but Nicole never lost her composure. Her heels moment became a rallying cry for anyone who'd ever walked away from heartbreak a little taller. By the time the divorce was finalized in August 2001, the world had already chosen sides. Nicole's career flourished, and in that same year, she gave one of the best performances of her life in Moulin Rouge, a film that earned her an Oscar nomination and reminded everyone she was more than someone's wife. She was a force of her own. Interviews that followed showed a woman who had found her voice again, who was rediscovering who she was outside of the marriage. Tom, on the other hand, shifted his focus to work. He dove into new projects, including Minority Report and The Last Samurai, and avoided personal questions altogether. When asked about Nicole or the split, he would simply smile, say he wished her well, and move on, making the mystery surrounding their breakup deeper. Years later, Nicole's one-liner, "I can wear heels now," would resurface time and again. Each time her name appeared in conversations about resilience or reinvention, that moment re-emerged on social media. celebrated as iconic proof of her grace under pressure. When news of her later marriage to Keith Urban made headlines in 2025, fans brought it up once more, reminding everyone how she turned heartbreak into humor. In hindsight, their split wasn't just another Hollywood scandal, it was a turning point in how celebrity breakups were viewed. For years, audiences had been conditioned to expect chaos and bitterness, but Nicole Kidman chose calm over conflict and wit over tears. Her dignity resonated deeply, earning her not only greater respect as an actress, but admiration as a person. The divorce between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman remains one of Hollywood's most talked-about separations, not because of what was revealed, but because of what wasn't. Tom's silence left behind mystery. Nicole's composure left a lasting impression. Even in their separation, they created one final act together, one filled with heartbreak, humor, and a kind of authenticity no press statement could replicate. Perhaps that's why their story still captivates audiences today. It was never about who was right or wrong. It was about watching two of the world's biggest stars face something profoundly human. Love lost, pride held, and the quiet strength it takes to move on. Blindsided, yet unbroken, Nicole rebuilt her life in silence, while Tom vanished behind rumors. But soon, love would find her again, one that seemed perfect until it wasn't. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, the love that promised forever but faded away. After her shocking divorce from Tom Cruise in 2001, Nicole Kidman was left to pick up the pieces of a life she thought was perfect. She had been blindsided, believing their marriage was solid and filled with love, only to watch it end without warning. While Tom remained silent, offering no public explanation, Nicole faced the storm with strength. Her grace during that time reshaped how people saw her. She wasn't just Tom Cruise's ex-wife anymore. She was a woman standing tall in the ruins of a marriage she never saw collapsing. All of this changed when Keith Urban, an Australian and American country singer, songwriter, and guitarist, came into the picture. They first crossed paths at the G'day LA Gala in January 2005, an event that brings Australians together in Hollywood. Nicole and Keith were introduced that night, and they exchanged numbers. Their flirtation began slowly, and Nicole later joked about how she had a crush on Keith, but he took his time asking her out, which made the early days feel playful and real. A few months of phone calls and careful courtship followed, and by 2006 they had married in Sydney, starting a life together that blended two very public careers with a private family life. Once they were together, the world read their life like a slow, lovely duet. To most people, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban looked like the kind of romance that kept appearing in glossy magazines and on red carpets. They exchanged smiles at premieres and shared glimpses of their life through intimate Instagram posts that felt genuine and warm. For nearly 2 decades, they embodied the image of a grounded and supportive couple, gracefully balancing demanding careers while raising 2 daughters. This public image mattered, as it painted their marriage as calm, unshakable, and almost destined, a portrait of enduring love and quiet strength that people admired time and time again. If you rewind to the beginning of their story, it reads like a gentle reset. After the heartbreak she endured, Nicole seemed to find in Keith a love that was healing and sure. They married in 2006, and for years the narrative people returned to was one of mutual uplift. Nicole would walk into a country music crowd to cheer him on, while Keith would stand in a film premiere audience to applaud her. The press fed on those moments, and the public liked the idea that 2 famous people could make something normal out of the chaos around them. Again, Nicole's marriage became, in the public eye, a model of resilience. When rumors of trouble in their marriage first surfaced, most people dismissed them. This was because Nicole and Keith had always seemed unshakable. They seemed too grounded and too real for such rumors to stick. But then, the confirmation that shifted everything soon surfaced. Reports revealed that Nicole Kidman had filed for divorce on September 30th, 2025, bringing an end to nearly 19 years of marriage. It wasn't a sudden or dramatic split, as friends close to the couple shared that they had been living apart for months, trying to find their footing before finally accepting that the distance between them had grown too wide. Legal filings mentioned the familiar phrase, irreconcilable differences, as the reason for their separation, a simple line that couldn't possibly capture the years of trying, compromising, and holding on. For those who had followed their story, the news felt like losing something so dear. The red carpet smiles, the shared laughter, the gestures of support, all the moments once seen as signs of strength now carried a different meaning. They became quiet reminders of two people who had loved deeply, fought to make it work, and ultimately let go when the silence between them grew louder than their love. When people try to explain why a marriage that seemed calm from the outside ends, they reach for practical reasons. When it came to Nicole and Keith, reports pointed to two likely reasons behind their split. One was the demanding life of a touring musician. Keith had often spoken about the loneliness that comes with months on the road and how it can strain family life. The other was the quiet drift that happens when two people begin living on different schedules and chasing different priorities. Friends later revealed that moving into separate homes marked a turning point, a sign that their marriage had shifted from struggling to unsustainable. Publicly, they remained protective of their family, keeping the most personal details away from headlines. Still, journalists pieced together a story not of sudden drama, but of two people slowly growing apart. There is also the way the world loves a tidy story where pain has a villain. This time, the angle many outlets took was quieter. The word irreconcilable kept appearing, and with it, a sense that what ended was not a betrayal splashed in headlines, but something lonelier and more mundane. This matters because it changes how we listen. A love that fades because two lives no longer align is not an easy headline, yet it is an honest one. Nicole was described in some coverage as fighting to save the marriage, while other notes suggested Keith had been drifting, absorbed in the demands of his work. That push and pull is familiar in long relationships, and in public it is often reduced to a few quotes and a handful of images. The truth usually sits somewhere between what we see and what people say in private. And then there is the angle everyone wants to know about: how the first major chapter in Nicole's romantic life, her marriage to Tom Cruise, factors into what happens now. People often look for patterns in lives that are lived in public. Clips of Nicole's famous David Letterman quip from 2001 have reappeared in social feeds since the split was announced, serving as a reminder that she has weathered a high-profile breakup before, and that she did so with a disarming sort of wit. That archival footage and the way she handled that earlier pain have become part of the narrative people use to explain her posture now. For some, that is a comforting through line. For others, it is a signal that celebrity love stories are cyclical and public memory is short. So what did Tom Cruise have to say in all of this? This is the question tossed into every conversation that touches Nicole's past. On the hard facts, there is no widely circulated, verifiable public statement from Tom directly addressing this new split between Nicole and Keith. What has appeared are a number of reports and insider quotes in tabloids suggesting feelings and reactions, sometimes framed as schadenfreude, sometimes framed as a neutral distance. Those items are sourced to unnamed insiders and should be read with caution. They carry the energy of rumor more than they carry the weight of first-person testimony. In short, reputable outlets have not published an on-the-record statement from Tom saying he feels any particular way. What we have instead are second-hand accounts and online chatter. That matters to note because it separates reported fact from speculation. If you listen closely to how people close to the story speak, the lesson is the same. Love and marriage in the public eye are complicated. The image we kept in our heads of Nicole and Keith was shaped by carefully arranged public moments. That image did not necessarily map to the quiet choices and negotiations of everyday life. Their separation is a reminder that a long marriage can end not with fireworks, but with a decision to stop holding on. As for Tom, absent a clear, verifiable comment, any claim about his reaction remains in the realm of speculation. It is tempting to stitch a neat narrative where old wounds find their echo. It is more honest to allow the documented facts to stand. This chapter closes on that quieter truth. The headlines tell us what changed. The people involved get to live their real stories away from the flash of cameras. So, what do you think really ended Tom and Nicole's marriage? Was it fame, faith, or something the world was never meant to know? Do you believe Tom's silence was a sign of respect, or was it hiding a deeper truth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.